Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and future CPA luminaries. Good evening to one and all present here. I am Namrata and I'll be your MC for tonight. It is my honor to welcome you to this exclusive webinar organized by Hi-Educare, a name synonymous with excellence in CPA education. Today, we are embarking on a remarkable journey to explore the depths of the CPA curriculum, guided by some of the world's most esteemed accounting and finance educators. We are particularly privileged to have with us Mr. Peter Olinto, the global lead instructor at UWorld, known for his unparalleled expertise and dynamic teaching style. Mr. Olinto's contributions to accounting and education have shaped the careers of countless professionals worldwide. Furthermore, we extend a warm welcome to Mr. Joe Maslot, Associate Director at AICPA, who offers invaluable insights into the CPA examination process and the future of accounting profession. Joining us also is Mr. Shubir Khatu, the Senior Director of Business Development of UWorld, who brings a wealth of knowledge and strategic insights from his extensive experience in this field. We are also honored to introduce Mr. Harish Ratnagrahi, the visionary founder of Hi-Educare. Mr. Ratnagrahi, with his outstanding achievements, including a world rank 1 in CPA FAR, is a globally recognized mentor whose dedication to demystifying the stock market and other complex financial landscapes has benefited numerous learners. Equally esteemed is Mr. Chirag Dalal, Director of Hi-Educare, whose leadership and commitment to excellence have propelled the institution to the forefront of CPA education. Today's webinar is not just an opportunity to learn, it is a chance to transform your aspirations into reality. Under the guidance of our UWorld class faculty, you will uncover the sophisticated layers of the CPA exam and gain strategic insights into succeeding in this challenging arena. We encourage you to engage fully in this interactive session, ask questions, seek advice, and connect with your peers. This webinar is your stepping stone to becoming a CPA, a designation that signifies not just your expertise in accounting, but your unwavering commitment to ethical standards and professional excellence. Welcome once again to this transformative journey. Let's embark on this path to success together, guided by the best minds in the world of accounting and finance. Thank you for your attention, and let's have an enlightening session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Namrata, for the introduction. You just heard one of our brightest students, Namrata, who even prior to completing her graduation has already completed her US CMA as well as her UK CIMA certifications. And we now look forward to her enrolling for her CPA exams with us. It's indeed a rare occasion where we see so many different experts under the same e-roof. At the same time, let us take advantage of this audience that we have with them. We have some curated questions where we see many different, which we've been asked by our students in the past. Once we are through with these set of questions, we would like to keep it open for all of you to ask the questions to our panelists. The only request would be that if you can frame your questions on the Q&A window right down on your Zoom screen, you can just put in your name. If it appears by default, it's fine. You have an option to go for an anonymous question as well. But then do pose who the question is for. It could be for Peter, Joe, Shubir, or for Harish sir, and the question itself. And considering that we may be a little short of time towards the end, if the number of questions we have, we've already had a few questions come via WhatsApp, but we may not be able to take up all of them. We'll take up the more relevant ones and shall get back with you, to you over the next week with the rest of them. Without further ado, let us now get talking to our guests. So first of all, I'd like to start with the best of the best. We're hearing the super instructor Peter for the first time, Mr. Peter Olinto. It's been an absolute honor to have you with us, Peter. Thank you so much again for taking out this time. You've trained thousands of professionals in your illustrative career. For someone just beginning their journey in CPA, what would be your top advice?
I think for most successful candidates, whether it's the CPA, the CFA, the US bar exam, if you want to be a lawyer, is the willingness and ability to make a serious commitment and have a plan in place that's going to support that success. I think a lot of candidates underestimate the time and effort they may have to put into preparation. So I think you want to have a clear plan and inform yourself as to about the average number of hours you're going to need per part to be successful on the exam, and then a proper plan, like what would be the best order for you to sit for those particular parts of the exam. And then to, most importantly, inform your loved ones, your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. They need to support you in this endeavor, because chances are, for a relatively short period of time, you will probably be spending a lot of that time in the library, and hopefully they are supporting that process and not giving you a hard time. But as my buddy Shabir likes to tell me, should you be with the wrong person who's giving you a hard time, let them go out and find somebody else, because after you get your US CPA, you're going to be making so much more money. Chances are you upgrade anyway. Isn't that right, Shabir?
Not at all, actually. That's his own advice. But just to sort of echo what Peter's saying, this journey is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You've got to have a plan, and you've got to put the number of hours and be dedicated. And everybody's plan is different. You just got to work out what yours works with your individual schedules, your family life, your school, your work environment. And I think that's where UWorld comes really interesting. But a key hallmark of our learning platform is helping you plan, from when you want to start studying and when you want to stop studying and when you're sitting for the exam, and we can map it out beautifully for you. So we take a lot of that pressure away if you just follow the plan.
Sure. Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you so much, Shubir. Shubir, when we'll come to we have a question on the the world material as well. So it'll be helpful if you can actually, when you've spoken about the planning, but if you can actually showcase the planning for the participants to see, that will be helpful. But again, thank you so much. I'll redirect the same question back to Harish sir. Harish sir, you've been in this profession for a long time, right? You've mentored hundreds of students yourselves on the same CPA journey, and you've been a rank one in the FAR paper as far as the CPA is concerned also. What would be your advice for someone who's just starting their CPA journey?
Thank you, Chirag, for the kind words. And when starting your CPA journey, it's crucial to focus on building a solid understanding of core accounting principle. And obviously, I always say that, the basics, sometimes I have seen our Indian students, right? They're good, but, they don't, when they learn accounting, right? They tend to memorize actually. So it's very important that they understand the basic logic, right? The dedication and commitment are always key in the endeavor. So time management, effective study habits will be your allies. Continuous learning and staying updated with industry trends are always essential. Seek mentorship, guidance to navigate the challenges successfully. Remember, success in the CPA journey is not just about the technical knowledge, but also about the growth mindset. And let me share my experience also securing the top spot globally in the CPA FAR paper was a result of consistent effort, effective study techniques, deep understanding of subject matter. For someone starting their CPA journey, I would rather advise focusing on mastering the foundational concept first. Develop a study schedule that allows for the regular review and practice. Roger always says, if you study, you will pass. Utilize the resources like practice exam, study groups to enhance your learning experience. Don't hesitate to seek clarification on challenging topics. Remember, success in the CPA journey is a combination of hard work and thirst for knowledge. So you should have a passion to learn actually. Rather than sometimes, I've seen students, they always target passing mark, which is 75 percentile. Target for 90 above. You definitely, and not only target 90 above, try to make sure that you want to gain the knowledge. That's very important. The marks will come definitely. So even I was, when I studied actually, I was discipline actually. The discipline is very important. Prepare the rigorous study schedule. Make sure that daily you solve couple of questions like 5 to 6 questions, 7 questions, 10 questions. You have the even the UL, the kit is online. At the same time, you can also available on the smartphone. Solve at least 10 to 12 questions every day. That makes a lot of difference. Thank
Makes a
you.
lot of sense, sir. Thank you so much for those inputs. Uh, I'll now move to Mr. Joseph Maslot very quickly. Joe, you have guided a lot of Indian students in the past in their CPA journey. Now, you know, basically, we've seen that the CPA opportunities have been massive in India. But do you see any changes in the current or the future opportunities for CPAs across the globe? Now that there's been a change in the curriculum, a lot more focus as far as some of the disciplines are concerned, and where do you think a lot of these opportunities will arise for CPAs, especially in India?
Thank you for having me. I think the sky's the limit for those working, studying in India. I know talking to firms in the US that they are committed to working with Indian students and partners, certainly on the way to CPA, and having a strong knowledge of the basics of wherever you're practicing audit and assurance or supporting tax functions or supporting financial accounting and reporting. Really, really, the US firms are interested in leveraging your skill set. So running, preparing passionately for this will, I think, pay absolute dividends for your future.
Chirag, you're on mute.
My apologies. Sorry, Joe. In terms of the industries, we've seen a significant, increase in the number of outsourced professionals in India. So it used to be largely around the audit and the consulting space, but we're seeing the accounting space go up as well. How is that being viewed from from a CPA body perspective? Are we saying that I know you said the sky is the limit, but are we looking at a lot more registrations coming in from India, for that matter? The opportunities in the US, are people willing to, I know there's also a significant shortfall from what we've been reading in the number of CPA requirements that are there in the US. So does it mean that the opportunities are increasing in India and increasing in the US as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressures on the supply of US accountants and those willing to become CPAs in the US, which raises opportunities for those internationally, especially India. We have seen the cost of education increase greatly in the United States, which puts some pressure on those going down the CPA journey. So I know firms are interested in finding good people, smart people wherever they're at, which has only increased opportunities for those in India, for those working in testing in India, and certainly accounting services beyond just taxation and audit. Outsourced accounting services for sure are a growth area.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll just quickly move to Shubir now. Shubir, in what ways do you think you will tailor its study material to cater to the needs of the CPA candidates?
Sure, Chirag. Maybe I just share my screen and actually show parts of the learning platform. That would be really
Absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah.
Can I do
Yeah.
that? Give me a second.
Yes.
Just do let me know when you are actually seeing the screen.
Yeah, we can see it now, Shubir.
Perfect. So just for the folks on the call, obviously, UL came about. We first bought Roger CPA Review, and then last year UL bought Wiley, and we've got the ever so awesome Peter Olinto with us, and together we just are the industry leader for accounting and finance, high stakes prep, and really, so happy to partner with Hi-Educare on this journey as well for US CPA students in India. But we're not just exam prep; we actually get you career ready, because candidates pass actually 3 times faster with our smart path technology, and I'll come to it. And we've got a 94% pass rate, people using our CPA, material. So that's just something that's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, for the new evolution exam, we've got everything built in, from, all the course sections to the disciplines, all 6 new textbooks, thousands of MCQs and TBSs, engaging lectures, top instructors like Peter and Roger, our smart path predictive technology, a lot of active learning, interesting aspects as well, study planners and tools. And so how do we put that all into action? And I'm just going to share, it's very easy to just log into your account. If you're an existing Wiley customer, you can still do it through Efficient Learning or just ul.com. When you log into your account, you'll sort of see your sections, and I'm just going to go into just a random fast section for now. And Pete talked about having a study plan, and that's one of the main things. You've got to start with a plan. You've got to understand your own learning styles. You've got to build a plan that accommodates it, and that's really important. And so when you see this plan, you have what you put when you want to start studying, when you want to sort of stop studying, how many hours of the week you want to put, and we will do all the work. The system will create a brilliant, robust plan that you make sure we can track. You're not going to fall back. And so that way, you can complete the material in time for your exam. If you've got your NTS, you can put the exam date here. You can see you've got a fast track option and a customize. Definitely for the disciplines, new content, use a customize option. Actually use it for all. But if you think you've got great mastery of a subject or you've got very limited time, you can choose the fast track option as well. The plan, you can always look at it from a day, week, monthly view. So you can really understand, what's coming up, and you can change the plan on the fly as well. If you're going faster, you're going slower, you've suddenly found you have more time or less time, you can amend it really easily. Here's a great dashboard page for you. You can monitor your progress really well, overall completion of the number of questions, how well you're progressing, your scoring, and you've got smart path and performances here, which I'll come to as well. And you can just go to your dashboard page and you can click on the next task in your study plan. But I'm actually going to make you go into the lecture so you can actually see how it is. You see, you have full course and cram course. Do the full course. Cram course is just key terms, concept lectures. You can go through these important things before an exam. Before every section, you'll see this great introduction area, which is fantastic for you because it shows you how best to use this learning platform. All the AI CPA blueprints are there, a bit about the CPA exam, how to plan your study, downloading a mobile app, looking at the concepts through active learning as well. That's going to be really important for you. And also, it will help you how to master your course and the topics laid out in the AI CPA blueprints. And that features heavily in our platform as well. This is how a standard, particular topic is taught. I tried to get a screenshot of Peter that looked a bit serious, so I stopped the video there, and that's Peter's start studying mode, face. And this is really great because you've got the video on one side and you've got the ebook on the other side. That's really helpful for you. Um, as you can see, you've got representative tasks over here. These are lifted from the AI CPA blueprints and integrated into our lectures, assessments, and ebooks. So it's important to know how you're going to be addressed, what you're going to be asked to do, and the level of question. For example, is it an application sort of level? That's really important for you. But as you know, Peter can't be serious. And as you can see very quickly into the video, he's going to have an acronym. Here it's CPA RAT, and sort of, explaining, important concepts for you that's easy to understand, easy to move things from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. There are a lot of things you can do, when you're on the screen. You can fasten the speed of the video if you want. You can make notes and highlights. You can listen to the lectures on the app as a podcast as well. That's something students do a lot when they're traveling. And at the end of the lecture, you'll get a fantastic quiz. The test bank section is one of the most important parts of our learning platform. And I recognize I'm showing this to you guys on slides, but at the end of the session, more time permitting, I can get onto the actual platform so you can see it. And certainly for Hi-Educare students before they join, we can do an in-depth demo. This is what Hi-Educare students are going to get as well into it. Now, as you see on our test bank, we've got tutor mode and time mode. Tutor mode is when you create a testlet for yourself. You answer a question, you get the answer at that time. It's good for you to start studying in that mode, maybe building the confidence as well. You can choose some NCQ to TBSs. You can use some unused, incorrect, or marked questions. These incorrect and marked are useful just before the exam because you might want to practice incorrect questions or marked questions that you thought it really stumped you. You should have got that answer right, but you got it wrong. And you want to see whether you've mastered that concept again and practice those before an exam. And you can create a testlet, for example, from a group or a particular subtopic as well. This is the fast section. You've got it into 25, the exams into 25 MCQ test lists. So, you can just make one like that. And this is an example of doing it in tutor mode. I've answered the question. I got it right. I actually just used guesswork. But you can see these great percentages against each of the answers. This actually tells you people who've used our platform what answer they actually chose. So you can see how you're relating to other peers as well, globally using our system. And you're going to get a lot of information from the correct answers and the incorrect answers as well. And this is a great hallmark feature of UWorld. We give a very detailed explanation, not a typical one-line or two-line question, answer that you might see elsewhere. You can highlight elements from this. You can create this into a flashcard for future use. Again, moving things from that short-term memory into the long-term memory. And as you see here, these are sort of really important things. You have references here, which will take you back to that specific part of the lecture where this question was asked from. And again, you have the application level and the representative tasks over here, so you know what level this is. There's full alignment between what is on this new exam, what is being covered in the lectures and the book, and what is being assessed and what you're practicing on. So you can be rest assured, you're going to be exam ready. It will give you, the timing. Obviously, this was guesswork, so you have 1 second, but you want to be on that 60, 70-second mark and make sure you're sort of getting exam ready. As you get closer to the exam, do it in a time mode. So, you work on the pressures of an invigilated exam condition, and that's really going to help you as well. When you submit the test, you'll get your test results. You can review all these questions again. You get your scores. You can mark these questions for future use, and you get great analytics as well from the groupings from the subtopics as well. Again, you can download, you can print all these things, and you can mark these questions for future use as well. And we've got the exam sims as well. So this is far. You've got 225 testlets for MCQs, and you've got the 3 TBSs. So once you feel you're ready with the material, sit for the exam sims. That's really important to make sure you've got the mental duration and to sit for the exam as well. Welcome to Smart Path. This is one of the key hallmark features, within UWorld. Everything you do in the program reports into this hallmark feature. As you can see, you've got a couple of things on the left-hand side, score and attempted. Now, this is created from 94% of the students who have used our program and met these targets past the exam. So this gives you a great idea of how you're measuring against people who've passed this exam. As you can see here under for profit for business, people got a 77% pass rate on our questions, and they attempted 189 of the 354 questions. So this gives you an idea about how many questions people attempted, how they're scoring before they thought they had mastery of the subject. The more you can do, the better. Where it's a new topic, for example, we just kept it at 80%. These would change as people use our platform a little bit more. The making progress section here, you want to get everything into green, because that's going to tell you, again, you're mapping against people who've actually passed that exam. It's going to help you focus on certain areas or move faster in certain areas. And so that way you're sort of looking at this program a little bit better, looking at this platform better, focusing on the areas you're weak on, and the system is going to tell you all that really well. We've got great flashcards, and you can search flashcards from a particular chapter. You can score them for reference for later on. If you look at this, here's an example of a flashcard, and here's the back of the flashcard. You can mark it. So, for example, I've marked this red, and that's going to enable me to look at all the red flashcards later on, because these were concepts I found really difficult, for example. In the study area of the flashcard, that's really interesting because you can calibrate your cards, and it's a great feature to include on your mobile app as well, to the amount of time you want to study and review. You can see how many cards you want to do per day, whether you want easy or difficult cards as well. And again, we've got great performance metrics. You can look at your overall performance. You get great reports by grouping, by each topic grouping, but also by all the subtopics as well. And that's really helpful in identifying areas of your smart path where you want to be focusing on. When you want to focus on regenerating those areas of the smart path that you want to close out, this could be really helpful as well. So you're working really smartly using this program. As Hi-Educare students, you're going to have access to this amazing learning management system. You're going to have access to their star instructors. You're going to have access to people like Peter Olinto coming and doing sessions for you guys. So, I'm here sticking around, for more questions, but here's a flavor of, UWorld study materials and solutions. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing.
Whoa, that's a big departure from what we'd seen in the past, in terms of the whole material, Shubir. I think it's a massive, massive positive change. Super interactive. I've used the whole app myself. It's very, very useful. And again, the level of questions are that we've integrated across both Wiley and Roger go a long way in terms of meeting the requirements. So I think that's very helpful. But again, let me just take a step back. When you're looking at it from an Indian student perspective, a lot of the Indian students still look at hard copies. uh, do we have hard copies for the students in India?
Great question, Chirag. We are on in the final stages of having an Indian printer right now. So right now we
Okay.
don't have that. We've obviously gone on a global level. We've got it, but shipping it from the US is very expensive into India. We're in the final stages of finalizing an India printer, so that's going to be available for all learners in India very soon.
Okay, that's great. uh, I will not let Peter sit idle for very long. I'd like to go back to him. Peter, how has the exam on the CPA exam changed in recent years, and what do these changes mean for candidates?
My wife must have snuck in the room and muted me again. I can't believe it. Well, yes, I haven't sat that quiet in quite some time, so thank you. Well, how has the CPA exam changed? I think the AICPA has done an amazing job in adapting to the needs of the profession specifically. One of the criticisms of the CPA exam going back was that it was so academic in nature that if somebody had work experience in audit or tax, it didn't necessarily pay dividends exam day because the exam was so academic. Whereas today, with the decrease, and it's been mentioned earlier, merely memorizing is not going to be what's needed at today's level to succeed. So they've reduced the number of multiple choice questions, the type of questions that involve memorization, remembering, and understanding, and really have increased the questions that involve the analysis, the application, the evaluation, so that if you've been doing tax or you've been doing audit, this exam actually rewards that training you get at the firm and the actual work experience you're getting at the firm. So all that leads into putting together a study plan that says, you know what, for the parts of the exam that are going to be more academic. So for a lot of students, that's the financial accounting and reporting. It's unlikely you'll put together a statement of cash flow or do a bond amortization schedule on a regular basis. So for many candidates, the financial section is probably something you want to do early on. But if you're a tax student, you might say, well, if I'm going to be doing a lot of taxes, you probably want to do audit on the front end because that'll also be more academic in nature. But then you could take advantage of your work experience and all your training by leaving the core tax section for maybe part number 3, and then the new discipline, the TCP, the tax compliance and planning. That's how you would finish things off. So I think the biggest obstacle to passing is the time, right? So if you're fortunate enough to get all 4 parts out of the way before you start working full time, wonderful. But a lot of candidates are forced, to simultaneously, work full time and finish up the exam. And that would be helpful if you don't have to do all 4. But again, they changed the rules to make it such that instead of having to pass all 4 parts in 18 months, they're now giving you, depending upon the state, 30 or 36 months. So even if you're working full time, you can study for 1 part per quarter, or even take 3 months, 4 months per quarter and be properly prepared. For the audit students, I recommend you sit for FAR, just like the tax students would, very academic. Then if you're an audit student, you're probably not going to see as much tax in practice, right? So the regulation core would be what you would do next. And then you would leave the audit core for maybe part number 3. And then your final part, depending upon what it is you do day in, day out at work, whether it be a lot of IT, information systems, you might want to sit for that discipline, ISC, or conversely, if you're not an IT person, but you're dealing with a lot of technical accounting rules, maybe you're an auditor in governmental. Well, a lot of the governmental accounting is tested in the bar section of the exam. Or if you deal with a lot of technical accounting, maybe consolidations or leases or derivative accounting, again, the bar section would lend itself well, given what you do for a living. So I think they really need to be commended for giving one part of the exam a choice to the students, ISC, IT, bar if you're technical accounting, or the TCP if you do tax. This way you can take advantage of that work experience. And then those task-based simulations, the application, the analysis, or an audit, the evaluation, you know what, that's a lot easier for candidates to prepare for if it's something they see at work as well. So they've really done a good job in that. If you have that work experience, you won't be punished for it. You'll be rewarded for it, and you have that extra time. So I think students that want to make this happen are definitely going to make it happen under the new format.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter, what you've also been doing is you've been answering some of the questions that our panelists or our attendees have been posing to us. So I think one of the first questions that came from, Vineet, was on the same thing. What should be the sequence of papers one should be attempting while appearing for the CPA exams? That's something that you explained in detail. But I'd love to.
And you know what? On that note, I'm sorry to interrupt. On that
Yes.
note, I want to mention, the 30 months you have to prepare, is that actually for all 4 parts, the 30 months? Not really. Whether it's 30 or 36, the first part you start studying for, there's no time constraint at all. So you could take 6 months. So as was mentioned earlier, FAR is one of the more challenging sections, a lot of volume of information. That's why I joke, you learn LIFO accounting, FIFO accounting. Well, I'm going to teach you HIFO. Joe, have you heard of HIFO at the AICPA?
No.
No.
Highest
Hardest one in, first one out. HIFO. So financial accounting and reporting, if you sit for that first, there's no time pressure at all. So as Shabir mentioned, in your study plan, if you thought you were going to need 3 months, but it turns out you might need 4 or 5 months, no problem. Then once you passed your hardest part, that time window kicks in, but then it should be relatively easier for you. So I think, again, the 30 or 36 months has made it such that the days of candidates not finishing all the parts within what used to be 18 months, now 30 or 36, those days are over. You pass a part, it is extremely unlikely that you will not have the time available to pass the remaining parts so that you can get your certification.
Great. No, thank you, Peter. And I agree that 30 or 36 months, depending on which state it was, that was a very, very welcome change for people who are in the profession. So we've had 2 major changes. One was obviously in terms of the whole discipline, choosing of a discipline that came in, which came with specialization, and then there was the 30-month extension going up from 18 months that was given. So I think that was amazing. So that brings me to a question to Joe. So Joe, we've seen those major changes come in over the last year or so, or less in the last 6 months. How often do we are we expecting any more content changes occurring in the exam? Can we expect something more let's say more relevant or more major come in 2024 or early 25?
So good news, we don't change the exam or take changes to the exam lightly.
Okay.
There has to be a big movement in the profession. So the big changes like CPA evolution, we go through a robust amount of research and studying and make sure that those changes are well announced to our candidates. We don't see any of those changes coming anytime soon. We just make them. But as far as obsolescence issues, changes in standards, those happen very strategically. If you go to our website, we have a policy on new pronouncements. Generally, we try to test those within 6 months. So as the new pronouncements come in, old pronouncements come out, We generally like to do a blueprint update at least once a year. Those changes should not be significant. We present a red line version so you could see what's changing. But from an overall structure, the evolution designed exam just launched in January. There are not major changes coming. I can't stress that enough. So we think, and I thank Peter for the nice comments, we think that this aligns well to the knowledge and skills that new CPAs need. So look for minor adjustments to content about on a yearly basis.
Thank you so much, Joe, and it's a big relief to hear. Just a quick word for our attendees who've been sending in their questions. I've taken note of those. We will finish the set of curated questions first, and then we'll come back to you, with the questions being directed to whom you want them to. So, were you saying something on this?
Thank you so much, Joe. So I will just take a quick step back. Can you let some of our new aspirants know what is the main objective of the CPA evolution model? And the second question is, how can we decide on what discipline exam section to take? Anyway, Peter has already covered, but what's your opinion?
Yeah, I'll cover the discipline first. This model is really allows a lot more candidate flexibility. And to Peter's point, it does reward candidates who have a better feel on the practical application. And I use that not in the sense of our skills, but the practical day-to-day use of accounting. So if you have experience, that's really good. If you don't have experience, thinking about, leveraging some of the resources we've shown today, and certainly going to our sample test and looking there is absolutely critical. But when thinking about a discipline, the model acknowledges that there are many paths to become a new CPA, and you can really think about what aligns to either your current interests or what you currently do during the day. So if you're in a tax practice, that's a natural extension for considering the TCP discipline. Conversely, if you're on the IT side, information systems and controls, or if you're on kind of the audit side or financial accounting side or accounting client service, things like that, probably bar is for you. But the good thing about this model is that it doesn't restrict future practice. Just because you take and pass tax compliance and planning doesn't mean you're locked into that. That's just the initial part of becoming a CPA. And then professional standards really dictate what work, what engagements you can do in the future. That's really no different than the exam was today. So the purpose of CPA evolution was an acknowledgement that given technology, given the amount of standards, given complexity, that there are many paths to initial licensure. And we hope this is a benefit toward candidates. I think the strategies that Peter outlined make a lot of sense, but you can certainly consume exam sections in any section you want. So hopefully candidate choice was really at the front of our mind, and hopefully that comes through.
Thank you so much, Joe, for the detailed answer again. This was very helpful. So, I am interacting with many Indian students, and I know we understand the Indian education system. Considering all these factors, when we choose a discipline within a CPA program, so it's important to consider both your personal interests and the career objectives. So if you see the each discipline offers the unique opportunities and specialize in the different areas of accounting and finance. So if you aspire to work in the corporate finance, for instance, focusing on FAR, would be beneficial. However, if you more drawn towards the compliance auditing, then auditing and attestation might be the right choice for you. So take the time to research each section of CPA exam, and then you decide. Ultimately, the right decision should align with your professional goals and interests, and ensuring that you are both motivated and positioned well for the future opportunities in the field of accounting. If you see, the BAR bar is the best CPA exam discipline for the accountants and the financial professional who want to dig into technical aspects of accounting and reporting. So if you, by focusing on this section, you will show the potential clients and employers that you have specialized skills and knowledge related to the data analytics, financial risk management, technical accounting, state and local government accounting. So this discipline opens up the variety of job opportunities, including the corporate accounting, controller, and the chief accountant, CFOs, CEO, and the career path for. And if you see the second discipline, which is ISC, the ISC discipline is an excellent option if you are interested in how information technology, security, and data management relate to accounting and finance. For example, I did CISA, in fact. And why I did CISA? Because I want to deep dive, I want to understand the technology, information technology. Now actually, this subject is already covered now. So basically, if you want to specialize in the information system and controls, obviously you can select this discipline. And this you will demonstrate the skills related to business processes, information system, information security, IT audits, system and organization, SOC engagements, and so on and so forth. In fact, the SOC engagement, I have seen that in India also, that we are getting a lot of work actually. So obviously, this is also very interesting section. The other thing is basically the IT. After ITT, there is a career path for the tax compliance and planning. If you see the big four, right? We are getting a lot of demands. In fact, we are the training partner of PwC and EY. So we basically getting a lot of requirements. In fact, that we need a tax preparer, and so obviously this is a area where you can master. If you are interested in all things tax related, including the tax regulation and the compliance, this may be the best CPA exam discipline for you. Passing the TCP section of the CPA exam proves you that the knowledge of complex tax issues and element, including the advanced individual tax compliance, personal financial planning, advanced entity tax compliance and planning, and the property transaction. So obviously, by gaining a deeper understanding of international tax issues, federal tax planning, business structure, and tax implication of proposed transaction, definitely you will be in a strong position to manage your own tax practice or take on the job, which includes your tax analysis. We do the tax planning also, tax compliance. So obviously, this is something which is you have to understand that which area you are interested. So again, bar is the best CPA exam discipline for the accountant and the financial professional. You can take a call actually which sections depending upon your requirement. So my question to Subir actually, do students needs to select a specialization before ordering the study material from the UL? Because I'm getting a lot of questions from the students before they select, because when they activate the kit, you know the all the subjects will be activated. So just want to understand from you.
They don't need to really worry. So actually, we can even give it to them by part. Typically, they have like 1 month to change and write into UL customer service to change the discipline. But we can also give it per part, so the students cannot activate that particular part, the discipline, and then they can write in anytime. If they have activated, it's usually a month. But again, they don't need to worry. They just write into Hi-Educare. Hi-Educare lets us know. We can change their discipline for them. So it shouldn't be an area of concern for your students. Let them be rest assured what they need to be studying. They'll be able to have the UL materials to study with that.
Yeah, this is very heartening to hear. Great relief, let me tell you, because students sometimes they struggle that which discipline they have to select. Definitely, we are mentoring them. At the same time, if this after selecting one discipline, if they want to change, definitely they have 1 month time, right? Very good. So
Yeah,
let me take
and,
the
and
opportunity.
again, even if it's
Yeah,
beyond that, and so we recognize that these are new disciplines, and candidates may take longer. But rest assured, none of your students are going to be stuck not being able to study with the discipline they want to. So, students shouldn't have any concerns or worry about it.
thank you, Zubir. Thanks a lot. So let me take the opportunity to throw a few questions to Peter. Peter, you have been an absolute legend as a trainer and a mentor, coach in a CPA fraternity for years and years, right? So, what would you think are the most challenging aspects of the CPA exam, and how do you recommend candidates prepare for them?
That's a great question. So, I mean, we're all individuals, right? So, some people, love IT. I'm not one of those people, so I would not be selecting ISC. Audit was not one of my favorite topics. The great thing about audit, though, when you study for audit, there's no math involved. But the bad thing about audit, there's no math involved. Like, it doesn't add up, right? Without that work experience, sometimes that analysis and evaluation can be very challenging. So I think really, because we're all individuals, I think it's important for students to look at their historical progress in school, their scores, their grades, and they'll get a good feel objectively for what their strengths and weaknesses are topic-wise. But I think one of the things that that I think it gets a bad rap today is the extra 30 credit hours. You know, I think the accounting profession, and especially the CPA, is kind of like a generalist credential, has been mentioned by Joe. Just because you sit for ISC doesn't mean you're locked into IT audit forever. So you get an opportunity. You know, the good news is you have a lot of options, but the bad news is, right, sometimes you have so many options. What do I do? So two things I recommend. Number one, with the extra 30 credit hours, use them wisely. Don't look to just take easy classes that you can get an A so that you're qualified to sit for the exam. The 30 credit hours are a great opportunity for you to sample classes in IT, data analytics, an additional tax class, you know, maybe governmental accounting, things that you were not even on your radar. You know, it's a big buffet, right? Before you go up for seconds and load your plate with more food, what is it that you like? So sample all the different topics that are out there. Those extra 30 credit hours, great opportunity to do that. And internships. I'm sure in India, like the US, you get these opportunity for internships. That's a great place for you to decide, well, based upon your own personal experience, hey, I've done some tax or I've done some audit. You know, what is it that resonates with you? What is it that you think you might be passionate about? That'll help you shape your own career path. Because even within audit, like when somebody says they do audit, well, what industry, right? There's financial services, there's healthcare, IT, you know, there's just so many things you can do. And having, you know, when you're a young professional, be politely aggressive with your career so that you can see different things if you get that internship opportunity. You know, so again, I can't emphasize enough, you know, those 30 credit hours are really a fantastic opportunity for you to sample, get to see what different topics are like, and where that could potentially take your career going forward.
Understood, Peter. Thank you. And second question I have that what do you think is the biggest mistake the CPA candidates make while preparing for the exam?
Memorization. You said it earlier. They merely want to memorize topics, and maybe, you know, when I took the CPA exam, Joe, I think Joe was like in kindergarten. It was 1990. 1990 when I took the CPA exam, and way back then, timing is everything. They used to release the exams in their entirety back then. So you would take the exam, they would send it to you after the fact, and you would be able to work old questions over and over again. And I remember like 50% of the questions or more, it seemed like exam day, were verbatim exactly what I studied, right down to the names of the people and the numbers and the letter choice. So memorization back then paid a lot of dividends. Today, it's about the analysis, the evaluation, the application. So people who just want to memorize formulas, that's the shortcut. Shortcuts get you a 72. And as you mentioned, you don't study to get a 75. You study to get an 85 or a 90, so that if a bad day is a 77, you still pass. But if you merely memorize and try to get a 75, a bad day is a 65. You can't have that happen. So I try to tell people, like, in the old days, it was maybe calculating a series of ratios, right? What does it really prove if you can calculate the current ratio? Not all that much, but if you're given, you know, a series of ratios for the target company over a period of time, well, what's the trend? How does that company's level of risk, you know, relate to maybe the industry average, the peer group, you know? So they might give you this information today and ask you more to analyze or apply it. And I think that that rewards the work experience, the practical application, and I think that better prepares candidates to succeed in the profession. And yeah, so I think, you know, I think number one, the time and effort, you know, it takes more time to understand than merely memorize. But also number two, this world today is obsessed with this thing. This is the biggest impediment to success, is that people cannot sit down for 4 hours uninterrupted and concentrate, because we're used to every 15 minutes picking up our phone and being distracted. You can't afford to get anything wrong exam day because you're mentally fatigued. When was the last time you sat down 4 hours uninterrupted and did anything? So exam day, God forbid you fail with a 73 or 74 and you made some silly mistakes in the last 15 minutes of the exam because you didn't have the proper mental endurance, right? So this exam also prepares you not just for the content, but work. I mean, when you're at work, you can't work for 15 minutes and say, okay, I need an hour break. I need to check Facebook for a while, right? So it prepares us for what, you know, an 8-hour day is going to be like. So I think that trying to study in those 4-hour increments so you build up that mental endurance. So exam day, you're ready to take each part of the exam because each part is 4 hours.
Thank you, Peter. So even when I teach students ratio analysis, I always say you are the financial doctor of the company. You know, it's not only that you have to see the symptoms, you have to analyze, you have to see that you have to prescribe the medicine. So that's something you need to analyze actually, right? Not and to connect the dots. Connecting the dots means connecting the ratios and try to analyze. So something this is very important for students that we have to learn the what is the logic behind it, understand, analyze, and make sure that start reading the annual reports of the company also. Apply whatever things you learn. Application of knowledge is also very important. So question to Subir, uh, does UWorld offer any additional support or resources to help students pass the CPA exam?
So obviously, the learning platform itself is a great go-to for you to pass it. But then we've got beautiful gentlemen like Mr. Peter Linto, who once they get their passport renewed, are going to come to exam physically as well. So we're going to try and do more sessions with our partners and their students. It could be ask the tutor sessions or taking difficult concepts as well. But of course, the learning management system is going to be your go-to tool. It's got everything built in, from smart part technology to planning your studies to doing everything. But we are going to get our great instructors like Roger and Peters coming and supporting our partners with sessions as well. There he is. He's renewing his passport. We set the date when he's renewing it now. So
So Shabir, I'm sorry to interrupt. What we also have, I think that's a very valuable tool, is these live online webinars where we do problem solving. So beyond what's just in the pre-recorded lectures, there are opportunities for you to join us and say, okay, I think I understand bonds, but now how could that be tested, let's say in a task-based simulation, or what would, a series of multiple choice look like? So Saturday, April 27th, you're going to join me. You are going to become a resident expert in bonds, discount, premium, you name it. We've got it. And it's kind of a sample of what our live online webinars are all about, where it's not just lecturing, okay, here are the rules. No, we're beyond the rules now. Practical application, both in terms of multiple choice and task-based simulation. So Saturday, April 27th, mark your calendars. It's free.
Great.
Thank you so much, Peter. So I'll just take a quick pause. I'll just look at a few questions that have been given to us by our by our attendees. So I'll just take the first question. I think that's already been answered, Vineet. I'll just start with your first one. So Vineet's first question is, I'm a CA intermediate. I've cleared the exam somewhere 20 years ago. Now I want to pursue my CPA. What should be the sequence of papers one should attempt while attempting the CPA exam? I think that was answered in detail both by Peter, then by Joe, and then Harish as well. It depends on your interest area. I'll take your second question. And again, like I said, which institute provides the best educational training for appearing on CPA exams? Well, you're talking to us, but nonetheless, with all the institutes are great. It just depends on the kind of application that you're going to be, giving to the exam is what is relevant. I think you've heard the, all the stalwarts talk about this. I think that's something that's very, very important. It's very important to, like what Peter said, go into the, whole discipline mode, and ensure that, you're focusing right, getting into the endurance. I think that's what is more important. Yes, we will talk about the coaching institute. We will talk about Hi-Educare in a little bit. But yes, the material that UWorld has as a great interface. Hi-Educare further supports that with its own LMS platform in terms of our own recorded videos and other things. With that, I'll just move the question back to Harish. Harish, how is Hi-Educare now equipped to coach and mentor these the students for the new exam? How is Hi-Educare different from the other coaching institutes? I think that's one question that Vineet had, which is something that can be partially answered with this, and then we'll move on to the remaining questions as as once you are done.
Very, very good question, Chirag. So, Hi-Educare is a uniquely positioned to help students to excel in the new CPA exam through a blend of rigorous curriculum and expert mentoring and cutting-edge learning technologies. If you see that UL is one of the best question bank. Even I have witnessed. I have studied. I have in fact I have gone through all the different resources, but I found that UL is one of the best. Let me tell you. Even the question bank, if you see the question bank, the why the other options are wrong, you will get a detailed explanation, right? Because if the questions are always inventing from the wrong answers also. So it's not that you attempt the right answer and just you say that okay fine I'm okay. You have to also study the other wrong options also, that why they are wrong, because questions may be inventing from the other. And we always, when I teach actually, right, when we teach actually, we also teach that the why the other options are wrong, right? That's very important. And what sets us set apart from other institutions, because I don't think that we are the competitor. Every institute have their own style of teaching. For example, we take only limited number of students so that we can focus. So obviously our faculties, basically they are coming from the industry background. For example, I got a 30 years of industry experience. Even the Chirag is coming from the big four. So obviously, we know very well that what exactly the practical application is. For whatever you learn the theory, you should know the practical application. Otherwise, there is no point of learning. You clear a CPA exam. When I have interviewed a candidate, when you ask a simple question, they say, I forgot. Why you forgot? Because you have not understood the concept, first of all. And when we explain the concept, we also tell them where you can apply all this concept. That means we don't only teach the material, but also bring the practical, real world insight on how to apply this knowledge effectively in various professional scenarios. So our secret recipe, sometimes people say that what is your secret recipe? Your passing rate is more than 95%. How come you are getting 95 percentage? So our secret recipe for success lies in our teaching methodology. So we emphasize the logic over memorization. So our instructors focus on explaining the underlying concepts, logic behind each concept, ensuring that students not only understand the material but can apply it critically in the real world scenario. So this approach not only helps in exam preparation but also lays a strong foundation for the successful career in accounting. Even I always tell my students that whenever you are planning to write the exam, please contact me first. At least 2 months before the exam, you have to contact me, so that first we'll check whether you are exam ready or not. Even if you see the UL application, there also the application tells that whether you are exam ready or not. Because if you see the Indian students examination fee, if you see the USCPA examination fee, that is very expensive, right? So obviously you have to make sure, doubly make sure, that whatever you basically learn, right, and whether you are exam ready or not. So we are here to guide you, and the last 1.5 month we are going to definitely mentor you. Mentoring is very important. Even I can see that on day of exam, I've seen many students on last minute they get a frustration. So obviously the boosting the confidence level, even if you know the concepts, on a day of exam, no, obviously you feel very you get a frustration. And there is always a phobia that okay fine, if I don't get the if I am not able to answer, what will you do? So obviously we are here to help you. I always say that you study more question, you solve more question, definitely you can gain the confidence. So we are committed to continuously updating and improving our courses in response to the changes in CPA exam and the industry standard, ensuring that our students are not just prepared to pass but to excel. Additionally, we provide extensive support outside of just exam preparation, including career counseling. Even I have my students today. In fact, one of my students is a director of one of the company. So obviously, whenever they want a promotion, definitely they reach out to us. They say that, okay, fine, tell me, can you please help me, sir? Actually, what questions they can ask and how can I answer properly. So obviously, for each level to become a senior manager, to sit from senior manager to director level, obviously your thinking process is very important, right? How you answer the question. So obviously we are helping them, you know. So this is it's very important that we want to make ensure that our students are well equipped to enter the accounting field confidently. In fact, I'll tell you, teaching is my hobby actually. So in 2016, I left the job. I was the vice president at EXL. Let me tell you, and this is my dream to teach actually. And I feel really we are getting a lot of satisfaction. Whenever students after teaching, when they leave the class with a smiling face, that's very important. So in summary, I can tell you that Hi-Educare, we don't just teach the curriculum, we mentor and prepare our students for the successful career in accounting, emphasizing the logic, critical thinking, and the practical application. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. So one of the more important parts, and again, Harishna spoke about it. We when our students normally go for an exam, we ensure that they are giving enough mock tests for them to assess if they've been scoring well. And that's what we started with, saying that, okay, if you're reaching a certain number on your mock test, that's when you're actually prepared. It's an expensive course from an Indian student's perspective. So yes, especially if you're giving the exam in India, because of the the fees that is being charged for the for the overseas exam applicants. So hence it is very important that you be very sure in terms of how you are doing things. So that's the point of time when it would be advisable to seek coaching from your mentors, from your trainers, whichever institute you may be with. Once you reach a particular score, and I think that's something that that Peter mentioned, that's something that Harish has mentioned as well. So be very careful in terms of how you're getting, be very prepared for the exam, and then that's when you go for it. You'll save time, you'll save money, and of course it's going to give you a certification quicker if you're better prepared. With that, I'll move to the last question of the day, and then we'll move on to the question from the from the different attendees. So, Peter, we've spoken a lot about the way the exam need to be given, and we've spoken about how we approach the exam. In your experience, what qualities or habits differentiate the successful CPA candidates from those who've actually struggled in the past?
Yeah, I think we've touched on this before, but I think the time and effort you put in, that you really make a commitment to understand and be able to apply the information rather than memorize. I think when you work the multiple choice questions, understanding if you got it right, did you get it right for the right reason? If you got a question correct, but it took you 10 minutes, on average, you don't have anywhere near 10 minutes. So there's got to be another way to solve that problem within the time period required. But I think the candidates who, it's ironic. I tell them you got to slow down to speed up. If you really understand the content, that takes more time on the front end. You watch the lecture, you absorb that information, but you're really trying to understand it. Then you actually get through the multiple choice questions and the task-based simulations faster. Conversely, students who are looking for shortcuts and immediately rush to the questions and they're not prepared, they wind up making a lot of silly mistakes, and now they're having to go back and forth between the question and the lecture or the notes. And I think that overall, they wind up spending more time that way. So, to me, look at it as was already said, commitment to learn benefits your career. I wish I had someone had told me, like, think about somebody on Wall Street who has to decide whether a stock is a buy, a sell, or a hold. What do they look at? The financial statements. What does the income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flow, what is it that they tell you? Why does the AICPA test these concepts? How does that help you better understand the risk of this investment that would affect your required rate of return, or potentially the growth potential in earnings or free cash flow or dividends? I think when you take that step back and you look at the big picture and say, how could this information be useful to me? It makes it interesting. It makes it more engaging. And then all of a sudden, it's not this obligation. I mean, I actually have students who talk about they actually look forward to class, So I think when you engage in it that way, you're going to find yourself performing at a much higher level. But it's really the sacrifice and the commitment. This is the start of your career, and this is going to change potentially the trajectory of the rest of your professional life. These 3 letters will pay you back the rest of your life. So I think when you look at it in those terms, and for the year or 2 you spend studying, when you amortize that over a 35-year career, it's minutes, it's seconds. So you will never regret this process, but be engaged in it the right way. Think about all the opportunities you'll have that this will present for you, and that will motivate you.
Oh, that's amazing, Peter. I wish the same guidance that you just gave me, and I completely resonate with what you just said. I come from an audit background, so I approached my audit, curriculum on UWorld. I approached that with a lot of confidence, and I went straight to the questions, like you said, and I ended up making the same mistakes. So I ended up making those same silly mistakes, which was a result of overconfidence. So I completely resonate. I completely understand what you're saying, and that's great input for us, for as students, as people who are going to appear for the exams. With that, we'll just move on to the Q&A section. Uh, from our participants. We've taken the first question from Vineet. The second question comes from an anonymous question that comes in. I'm a working professional. How do I manage time? How much hours do I need to give weekly? Sir, would you want to take up that question, Harish sir?
Yeah, so working, even I'll tell you one, my experience, when I completed my CA, ICAA Company Secretary when I was 23 years, after a gap of 10 years, after 10 years, even I started studying CPA US, and I was doing the job. So obviously, first of all, you should have a passion to learn. Passion is very important, right? And definitely you can carve out the time. So I used to, morning time I used to study at least 2 hours, and the late evening 2 hours. So daily, if you study 3 to 4 hours, that's enough. I can tell you one thing. Again, you don't have to memorize so many things, right? Understand the logic, right? And make sure that if you understand the concept very well, any question comes, you can easily clear the exam. So obviously, learn the technique. I can tell you one thing, I've seen that even the chartered accountants, I'm talking about the practicing chartered accountant or working professional like chartered accountants, they have a all confidence and they miserably fail also. And we know why they fail, because all confidence, and they think that this is very easy and we can easily do it. But if you see, the examination pattern is different. If you see, the technique is different, right? So you have to learn the technique, you have to master the technique. And I can tell you one thing: CPA exam is not at all difficult for the Indians. Let me tell you very clearly. If you study, you will clear the exam. At least daily 3 to 4 hours is required. So obviously, it's not difficult at all. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Question now again, Joe, a question for you. Someone just said, I've completed my CIMA qualification and I want to pursue CPA, particularly the Canadian CPA. I believe I saw an MOU between the AICPA and CPA Ontario. Could you please highlight more on the same? And then, of course, will Hi-Educare cater for the same? We'll take up that question separately. But yes, in terms of the MOU between the AICPA and CPA Ontario, would you want to give some inputs, please?
Yes, there is an MOU between CPA Canada and the US CPA. Generally, the gap between those assessments are US tax. So someone who has a Canadian CPA would basically need to take our IQEX exam. And if you Google IQUX, you'll see what's on the IQEX exam. And it's generally US taxation.
Okay. So
So
that's
I can add here, actually, if you are CIMA, for example, right, there is a reciprocal agreement. You should please reach out to CIMA office and try to find. I'm also CIMA qualified, basically. So please reach out to the AICPA. We have you can reach out to Bhaskar. He will definitely explain you how to. There is a reciprocal agreement is there, so you can find out.
okay. Uh, Again, Joe, there would be another question for you since we're talking about a CPA requirement in different parts of the world. Now, there's again someone who says, I'm a qualified CMA. US CMA with 5 years of experience. My career aspirations and object are to work in Europe and the UK. Will qualifying a CPA help me get potential opportunities in those regions? Keeping in mind ACCA is more commonly accepted there. So I know there may not be a direct answer, but I'll let you start with that. And I've worked in the UK in the past, so I'll continue after you've finished.
Great. I think a US CPA is certainly a great base for anyone working internationally. And being able to bring that perspective of having that background of US GAAP or US gas auditing standards certainly would be beneficial to a career, and you can learn kind of the differences between what's required in the US and what's required in Europe. And I think, just because of the globalization of business, I don't think you can go wrong with a US CPA.
Brilliant.
I can add here. See, I'll tell you. The good thing is that when you finish your US CPA, you are going to learn US GAAP, and definitely, if you know US GAAP and IFRS, right? I can tell you most of the MNC companies are US based. So obviously, you know the two accounting languages, not only one accounting languages, right? So this is really good. It's like you become a accounting translator, because my experience says that if you know IFRS and US GAAP, great value. Let me tell you. Consider you are working in the MNC companies which are US based, or the parent company is US and the subsidiary company maybe in Europe or India, right? Obviously, you have to prepare the financial statement as per the US GAAP for the consolidation purpose, and you have to prepare the financial statement for the reporting purpose in India, for example, right? Because you are also Indian you have to incorporate the company in India. So obviously, is a great value. US CPA, really great value. Even I visited the African countries also. I visited the European countries also. Most of the companies, definitely the value of CPA is very, very high. Let me tell you, it is recognized all over the world. Whether you go to Australia, whether you go to Africa, whether you go to European countries, they recognize. Let me tell you. So, absolutely, US CPA is something which is a premium qualification. I can say that.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. I'll take a couple of questions are very similar. So there's one question from Mayank, and then there is a question from Sheetal. Both of them are qualified enroll agents working in the US tax field. Will doing a CPA actually add any value to my career? Peter, would you want to take that up?
Well, I always tell the audit students that, guess what? You better take additional classes in tax, because when the average person hears you're a US CPA, right or wrong, what do they expect you to be an expert in? Tax. So I think, the enrolled agent, I just was looking at the pass rates the other day. They are very high. I think somewhere 70 to 75% pass rate, whereas the US CPA is much lower than that. So I think in terms of the respect that the US CPA carries, again, opens a lot of doors and opportunities. The enrolled agent, very specific for, being a tax preparer. But I think a lot of the money made in tax is not just preparing the return, but consulting. And that discipline, the tax, planning and consulting, is where the high net worth individuals, the entities, are looking to lawfully reduce their tax obligations. So that's not just about filling out a 1040, 1065, but do you understand the tax code well enough that you can help somebody put together a plan to lawfully minimize their tax obligation? That's at a whole nother level. And I would say, but don't take my word for it. You can Google the differences and you will most certainly see the high esteem that the CPA is held globally versus the enrolled agent domestically.
So Peter, I can add actually here, because I'm teaching enroll agent also, EA as well as CPA, US and tax also. Obviously, enroll agent, you get a federal license. That's the only advantage. But if you see the curriculum is not so difficult. It's so easy actually. Yes, what Peter said is rightly that now you can go for the specialization. For example, you have the you can specialize, you can select that discipline where you can master, you can do the tax consulting type of job. Now the obviously if you see the tax preparation work is a routine type of work. Basically, there are a lot of softwares are available where you can process your tax return without any additional efforts. But the tax planning, tax consulting, that is something which is a emerging areas now. So obviously if you do CPA, definitely you gain that all this knowledge. Obviously the annual agent passing rate is very high, 80-85% is there, or it's very easy to clear the exam. Let me tell you very clearly. So I obviously say that if you do CPA, then there is no need to do annual agent course. That's what I.
Great. So I think that's an answer to both Mayank and Sheetal's questions. Uh, Vineet, you've had a question. I think we've already answered that. You said we get 18 months to clear the rest of the 3 exams after the first paper, and the period starts when you clear the first paper. That 18 months has now become 30 months, depending on the state you've been registered in. It could actually go up to 36 months. So I think that's one question. So you have more time now. That's what we just spoke about. I think that's an extension. Uh, I'll quickly move on to one more question, and again, it's a relatively simple one. I'll give my example here, but Peter, I'll give that to you. You just spoke about a 35-year career. Now, there's someone who's just said, I'm 40 years old. Would it add value to my career growth if I take up CPA at this stage of my life? I'll just take a pause. I'm 43. I just enrolled for my CPA last year. But yes, over to you.
Yes, well, being 43 myself, yeah, plus or minus. No, I mean, look, thank God, you got, God willing, 25 years ahead of you. And again, it's about having the options. I mean, to me, my uncle way back when was a partner in what was back then the Big Eight. And he explained to me, again, the accounting profession, having the CPA, that big buffet, if you want opportunity and options, I think that it's well worth the time and investment. Now, if you were 62 years old, it might be different. But I think at this stage in your life, I think you would still get a tremendous return on that investment in the time and effort you're putting to get certified. And also all the different content areas you'll get exposed to. You might realize, wow, I really enjoy corporate finance or governmental accounting or IT, data analytics, whatever it is. So it exposes you to all those different potential in different industry areas. So would I say it's worth it? I think no doubt.
Great. Thank you again. Another question was from someone, will there be any support that would be provided for NTS scheduling? I'll quickly take that up. Yes, the NTS scheduling is something that you have to do, but yes, we will have our team and our mentors guide you in terms of when you need to do your scheduling. We just spoke about it. That's a question from Revti. So if someone's scheduled their exam, we will let you have your mock test course. We'll go through that. We'll counsel you, and that's when you can then go in for your scheduling for your exams. I hope that answers that. I think most of the questions have been taken up. We've
One
had
question
yes.
is there. Does EXL service have a tie-up with Hi-Educare? So let me tell you that you can reach out to us. Definitely, we'll help you. I was a vice president at EXL, so we have a very good relationship with EXL services. So obviously, please reach out to us. We will help you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. We've had a couple of hands which have been raised on the sorry, I've just got another one. I think again it says, and I'm an ACC affiliate. I want to pursue my CPA. How can my knowledge and experience help me pursue my CPA qualification? We've touched upon that in terms of what Joe spoke about, that the ACCA, and we said that the IFRS and the US GAAP will help you eventually. It's easier for you to grasp if you've been in the accounting profession, if you're already an ACC affiliate. It makes it a little bit easier for you. Yes, from a credits perspective, that's something that we will have to evaluate whether or not that's something that you could have. But yes, it will definitely be helpful for you to pursue your CPA going forward. On the participant side, sir, I have a couple of hands which have been raised. I know, I don't know if Samit is there on the session. So there's Samit Shah. If it's okay, if I can allow him to talk for a bit.
Yeah, sure. Please.
Hey, Chirag.
Hi, Samit.
Hey,
Samit, you had
uh,
a question earlier.
no, I didn't raise my hand, did I?
Okay, no,
I'm so
no
sorry.
worries. I just saw that initially. Sorry, apologies
Yeah.
for that. I have a couple of other questions that are there with, and I'll just move into. There's Priyanka and Satya Teja. Priyanka, just unmuted you. Would you want to ask your question, please?
I think she's whispering.
I'm not too sure. Okay. Well, that kind of brings us, Priyanka. If there's a question, you can always email to us. Okay, Priyanka's raised her hand again. Sir, could you unmute her?
Let me see. 1 minute.
You know, while you're doing that, it's been on my mind. I wanted to just bring up the volume of ACCA credentials versus US CPA International. I think a lot of that has to do with not by choice, but necessity. For decades, it was very, very difficult to get the US CPA, but for a few spots outside of the US, and Joe can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's only been in the past decade or so that I think it's that the AICPA has embraced, you know, the international candidates not having to physically fly to the U.S. to take the exam. So I think it's much easier today to get the U.S. CPA than it was 10 or 20 years ago. And I think that accounts for a lot of the disparity in the charter holders internationally versus the CPAs. But Joe, I defer to you on that.
I agree with what you said. It's certainly easier to test internationally nowadays.
Right. Sorry,
I'm
we
not.
finally
Yeah, I
managed
think
to
so.
unmute.
Priyanka, can you speak actually? I think so. Priyanka, are you there? I don't know, some problem with this. Yeah.
Okay.
Kiran?
We will call it a day now. I know it's very late for Shubir. We will just move on to the vote of thanks for our panelists.
We're done? I don't want to leave. Can I stay?
Of course you can, Peter. You're more than welcome. But yes, permitting Shubir lets you stay back because it's close to what 10:30 now, Shubir, or nearing 11
We
p.m.
can't get enough of Peter. However long he wants to stay is great. So
Yeah. Namrata, over to you.
Yes. Honestly, I would like to stay a little longer too because as soon as the webinar kickstarted, I was quite immersed, especially the part where the panelists spoke about practical application with the study material because it's very important. Other than that, you don't really understand the concepts well. So, unfortunately, that brings us to the end of an amazing evening. A big thank you to our panelists. We realize it's a very early start for them in the US and quite late in the night for Shubir in Singapore. We at Hi-Educare extend our heartfelt gratitude for the time that you have spent and for all the questions and doubts that you have helped resolve for the participants. We were fortunate to have over around 182 participants when we began, and on this call, we hope the session was quite helpful to all of you and as we intended it to be. A video of the seminar will be uploaded shortly on YouTube channel. In the meanwhile, should you have any queries, you may please get in touch with us so that we could address you on the same. And the email address is right on your screen. And once again, thank you all for joining and good night.
Thank you so much, Peter.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Joe,
Thank
for your
you.
time. Shubir, big
Thank
thanks
you.
again. I know it's very late, but
Not at all.
it was amazing for you to make that time for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you all.
Yeah.